how did you support them? Because at 2 and 5, they're not going into therapy.
Yeah, no, they didn't really understand. I mean, my son, who's now 13, he doesn't even have any recollection of his dad and me together, which that's what I sort of initially thought when they were young. It might be easier on them than when they're older and they're more aware and it's more difficult. We got some really good advice from our family counselor on how to coach our kids through it and what to say to them and what not to say and what questions not to answer and all of that. And so that was super helpful. So the languaging really was, Mommy and Daddy love you very much, and we're going to be living in 2 different houses now. Doesn't mean we're not a family. All families look different. We would point to John's family also live in 2 different houses. We got them books, like kids' books. That was about my room at mom's, my room at dad's. There are different books to help them access. I mean, a 2-year-old's pretty difficult, but my daughter, who was 5 and going into kindergarten. We really had quite a fluid sort of, kind of relationship. If I couldn't get to somewhere, even though it was my day, my ex would be like, no problem, I can pick her up from dance. So we tried to keep it as harmonious as possible.
That's amazing.
And I do think that was helpful for our kids at the time. Like I said, we really kind of tried to create this North Star. I grew up inside of a marriage that split where they did not have that dynamic. And I often very much felt caught in the middle. My mother was absolutely the peacemaker. My dad was kind of a jerk. When I see what she went through now as a grown woman, I think, wow, I don't know how she navigated through that so well. But I didn't want to put my kids in the middle where we were triangulating with our children. So for the most part, we try and come to each other as much as possible. Even though we're 10 years out now, we still get into situations where it's oh, the kids are working us now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little bit. So I don't know if they're conscious of it, but we're constantly, the 2 of us need to communicate on this, not go through the children.
Yeah, I think communication between the parents is key.
If you can do it, yeah.
Yeah. So what now as they're older, do you need to have conversations with them to make them feel safe and reassured, or this is kind of their normal? Because I heard a stat once that said that if you're thinking about divorce and separation, that if you do it before the kids are in grade 5, they're more adaptable to change before in younger years than if once they hit those middle school years and then high school, because they're hitting their own hormones and their own friend groups, and it becomes a little more tumultuous. And then as adults, they almost feel like their childhood was a lie if the parents break up afterwards, because they don't understand what the dynamic was, or that kind of thing. So do you feel that since your children were young, that they're just adapted to this as their normal? They don't know any different.
Yeah, they really adapted very well. Kids are really resilient. And I think the younger they are, there is probably a lot of brain research tied into that. Kids can learn languages really quickly. They just seem to kind of adapt really quickly when they were younger. And things came up. I miss Daddy. I miss Mommy. We'd be like, oh, let's get Daddy on the phone right now. You can tell him how much you miss him. I know you miss him, honey. Really just sort of the emphasizing with them. And now that they're older, this has just been their life for the last 10 years. So they don't really know any different. And we're both remarried, right? So they now see us inside of loving, thriving, connected relationships. And they're happy for us that we have these. And now their love circle expanded more.
Yes.
Because they have now step-parents as well.
And you're modeling an ideal relationship for them versus the relationship that maybe wasn't as ideal.
Yeah, it probably would have been a lot harder, because there probably would have been yelling and lots of negative emotions and feelings if we had stayed inside of that relationship. And I think it's important for people to see their parents happy. And I had a conversation, I had a very pivotal conversation with a girlfriend. And it was when I was contemplating separating. And she said to me, Jen, I grew up with divorced parents, and I never viewed divorce as a negative thing. And I was like, oh, really? And she goes, no, like my parents were always friendly and my mom welcomed my dad's girlfriends and we had family dinners together. And that like thought of that hadn't even entered my mind as a possibility. And so really kind of took the blinders off about what this could look like. Okay, maybe I'm not going to completely mess up my children for life. Maybe we can do this in a way that feels grounded in values and love and open communication. And listen, it's been that way about 75% of the time. Like 25% has been hard. But the thing is, we kind of keep coming back to it and be like, okay, how do we improve this? What are things we can do to adjust? You know, we were just at our kids' family counselor this week together, my ex and I, talking about, okay, how do we respond to this as a united front as parents? Because different dynamics at different households.
Yeah.